Welcome on into the Rock and Refuel Recruiting Roundup. Jason Jewell and Jordan Ham going over everything in the state of Arizona. If it's Arizona high school football, we got you covered here. And Jason, we have a light week in terms of quantity of offers, but a big offer comes to Lance Lawson, the playmaker over at Red Mountain.
So this is a guy that only had Big Sky level offers. He had Southern Utah, Northern Colorado, and Montana. Then he lands a Pac-12 offer when the University of Arizona comes in and extends a scholarship offer to him last week. We saw Drayson Hall, a similar type player from Higley, get offered by the Wildcats the week before. And you see in the spread offenses, guys like Lawson and guys like Drayson Hall, they don't have to be huge. They can be they can be smaller and get the ball in their hands, let them run around and make plays. So you look at a guy that's 5'8" and 185 pounds like Hall, like Lawson, and it doesn't really matter to them. And that's why the bigger schools haven't really been recruiting those guys at the level you think they would for the productivity that they've put out over the last year. But very good offer for Lance Lawson, and I mean it's huge. I wouldn't be surprised to see one of those two kids commit here pretty soon.
You mentioned Lawson's productivity, close to 1,900 all-purpose yards, 600 passing yards. He was the Wildcat quarterback, running back, wide receiver. I'm sure he got water for the guys as well. Incredibly productive, incredibly versatile. And now we're going to move over to a decommitment, a guy reopening his commitment down in Tucson.
So we saw Kai Golden, the big defensive tackle from Marana Mountain View. He committed to Air Force earlier in the summer. He tweeted out that he is going to open up his commitment. Some of the other schools that were in the mix at the time were New Mexico State, Montana, and Virginia. So I assume that those schools are going to be back in the picture for the 6'3", 290-pounder.
Now there's a huge matchup here on Saturday. Chandler-IMG over at Austin Field. Going to be a huge game. IMG has 11 of the top 200 players in this recruiting class, according to Scout. Chandler has plenty of talent as well. How do you see these matchups in terms of talent?
Well, they're both ranked in the top 15 in the country, so this is obviously one of the marquee games in the entire United States next week. And you look at the talent that IMG has, yeah, they have some great football players, but so does Chandler. So I think this is going to be a great football game. You look at starting at quarterback, Jacob Conover, only a junior, has got offers from Alabama and Memphis and several others, and we see Gunnar Romney, who was at the opening, tore it up, and he committed to BYU. Jarrett Caldwell, the other receivers, committed to UNLV. Chris Minow is committed to UNLV. Bryce Jackson, the corners, committed to UNLV. So you look at these guys, Chandler, they can stand up, they can play with these guys, so I think it's going to be a great football game.
And IMG gets players from across the country to come and play for them. It's a unique situation because it seems very heavily athletic. What's your view on a place like IMG?
I guess you could take it, two ways. So you can say, okay, this is one-stop shopping in recruiting. I kind of see it the other way. We saw Texas head coach Tom Herman come out and said that they won't recruit at IMG because of what they stand for, and they're taking high school kids from their home states and putting them out in Florida and taking away from their school for their senior year. And I agree with them. Yes, there's some talent, but these are kids that already had Division I scholarship offers, and they're just kind of putting together basically an AAU team, an all-star type team, and having them play other schools across the country. So it's great that they're out there and competing at a high level, but these are kids that already had Division I offers. It's not like IMG is getting these kids these scholarship offers.
Huge game on Saturday, but there are quite a few other good ones. Where are you going to be at this week?
So I'm staying on the west side, and I'm going to go to Williams Field at Deer Valley. And the reason I think there's going to be a great game as far as offensive line play. You look at Deer Valley, led by Joey Ramos and Xavier Robinson and Brandon McCray, and their running back Des Melton, going to be a good smash mouth football game. And then Williams Field, the defending 5A state champions, they're good on the offensive line as well. They have 4 kids they're going to play on Saturdays. Noah Nelson is going to be a sophomore. Most recently was offered by Arizona State. So very good group also up front. They're going to protect their quarterback, Zach Shepard. So I think it's going to be a good game out on the west side.
I'll be over at Chandler and IMG on Saturday. Looking forward to seeing how Chandler stacks up against the national powers. I always enjoy going to an event like the opening, like the Army All-American game, to see how these Arizona guys stack up. Also going to be headed over to Mesa and Desert Mountain, a couple of under-the-radar schools, I feel, this year. Desert Mountain coming off a huge win over Chaparral. And finally, we're going to wrap things up. Plenty of big-time performers here in Week 0. Who would you say is our player of the week?
So last year at this time, Brock Perry was an unknown name. He didn't actually play the first couple weeks because he had mono. So in a game that was supposed to be one of the better ones in the state last year, Perry versus Desert Vista, ended up Perry blowing out the Thunder 49-17. And in that game, Purdy threw for 383 yards and had 6 touchdowns.
Plenty of great stuff here on the Rock and Refuel Recruiting Roundup each and every week. Keep it here on Sports 360 AZ.